Okay, on with the next little bit. This time what we're doing is we're going to look at starting weathering on the roof. So we're going to try some different techniques for this one now. Obviously, as you can see, we've weathered up the car, but the roof is stark white. You know, very unrealistic. So we need to do this one. So to do that, we're just going to put the van to one side for now. Pop them over there. To do that, what we're going to do is a technique some people might refer to as using pigments or powders. Okay, what we're using is these chalk powders. Now you can buy them specially mixed up, ground up pigments already. A lot of the big manufacturers make them and they charge like a wounded bull. Essentially, it's a lot of it's just this stuff here. What we're looking at is the darker colours. Obviously, pink's not going to be suitable for anything that we would want to do, really. You can buy these from a lot of places. Cheapy art shops generally have them, the $2 shops. You can buy individual sticks in some of the better art shops, which is even better, because you're just getting what you need. I think the set might cost me about $12 from somewhere, but it's a whole mixture of colours that I may use over time. We want the earth tones, you know, blacks, the browns, yellows even are okay. Even to some extent, if there's an olive green, we can still use that type of thing, but the majority of these colours we may not use. Put them over here. Right, so what we've got here is just a grimy mixture of pigments that we've ground up. They're just those same sticks I showed you there, those chalk sticks. Now you don't want the oil pastels. You can use them for weathering, but that's a totally different kettle of fish to what we're doing today. We want the dry chalk pastels. We've just got a black and a brown in here. Put them in a plastic bag, hit them with a rolling pin or a brick, you know, bust them up a lot. I've still got some granules in here that haven't gone completely back to powder, so I'll get onto that soon, but there's certainly enough powder in here to do what we want to do today. So that's all it is. I've just mixed up a grimy mixture, and that's all we want. You can add greys to this as well. If you want to add a little bit of white in here, you certainly could. We're just going to go with the mixture that we've got here today. It's going to blend in for what we want anyway. Just remember too that the roof of some of these cars or wagons may vary in its weathering depending on the materials that they were made of. Some had, you know, a canvas covered type top. You can use these on canvas tarps even. You know, you got corrugated iron, you got sheet metal roof, all the timber roofs in some cases. It all weathers differently, and the roof on this particular thing may not have weathered the same as the body. So as long as we're keeping a colour tone that's similar to the rest, it won't look out of place. We don't want to go overboard with this. White is a colour that, you know, will absorb everything, obviously, and if we go too heavy, it's going to be very, very obvious. Now, what we need to start with, this is just the clear plastic from Hornby. It hasn't been painted. Ideally, we probably should have come across this with a, you know, maybe an off-white colour, given it a base coat first. I haven't done that. I'm just going to use that. What I have done though is I've given it a matte clear coat. Okay, so use something like, you know, a flat clear from SMS or a clear flat from Tamiya or Testa's dull coat. Sometimes you can get them in a spray can. Sometimes artist shops just sell a big can of spray as well. Sometimes you can even squirt that into the airbrush, run it through your airbrush. You'll get a much finer application than you would straight out of a spray can. For this particular job that we're doing today, I've just done that. I've just hit that with a bit of spray. I'm giving it a matte surface. Now the reason we want to do that, these pigments won't stick to a gloss surface. They'll simply just fall off all over the place. Okay, so we need to give it something to bite into, something to adhere to. So I've just given it a matte surface about 10 minutes ago. Just a quick spray, and that's going to be able to now absorb our pigments. We need some isocol alcohol. Now this is a 99% one that I've got. I'll use it for resin casting as well. So we've just got a little bit of that in our little tray here, and we're going to use that to help fix the pigments. So we'll see how that goes. 2 brushes we need for this. I'm using my dry brush again, just simply because I didn't have another one on me today. We want a stiff stippling type brush, so you'd use it in a motion like this to dab those pastels on. So we want to work those pastels up into that chalk, up into the bristles, and just dab it on at certain spots. You don't want to be brushing it on. Okay, you just want to dab it on in light little spots. Some of the more expensive ones, I know Tamiya do it. Other companies like MIG and places like that, they will give you an applicator with some of those pigments. It might look like a small makeup brush again. Don't brush on, dabba dabba dabba. Our second brush that we've got, this is just the number 5 that I've got. It's a cheapie, relatively new, relatively clean. Doesn't have to be a detail brush for anything like that. All we're going to use this one for is picking up that alcohol and dripping it onto the surface to help lock those pigments in place. And we're going to use the capillary action of that alcohol to cover the entire surface, and as it dries, and the alcohol will dry off very quickly, it will lock all of those into place. So let's get on to it. So I'm just going to dab some of that grimy brown mixture with my brush, and I'm not going to do it all over. I'm just going to come in certain spots. Okay, we might do around the edges, definitely. Don't forget the actual edges, and even up under. Blow it off as you need to. Okay. And in some cases we can come across in almost a stripe, as if there were ribs there. Pick up a bit more. We're going to remove a lot of this. It's going to naturally fall off and blow off as well, which is fine. But we just want to eliminate just that starkness. So I've just blown some of that off. Okay, we'll come back on the edges. And this is where you need to be really careful with your fingerprints. Some people will use gloves, put on a latex glove or something. I didn't actually think of that before I started today. But that will certainly help to eliminate fingerprints, because they will definitely pop up with the oil that's on your fingers as you go through this stage. So we're just trying to mottle that roof up a little bit. And again, I'm trying to keep it in a rough stripe. Like I said, just to create the illusion of some sort of ribbing underneath where the roof may have been fixed in place. That may not be prototypical, but that's the effect I'm going for. Okay, and again, come up underneath there, dab it where you can, and get down the sides there as well. I'm not going to worry too much about the side overhang, because there won't be much side overhang. And you can see already, because I didn't spray the underneath with the matte clear before I started, it's really not sticking to that surface much anyway. Okay. So just dabbing away there. Just trying to push it into the surface of that matte clear that we put on before. Just blow off the excess. Okay, and then we can just fan it. Just fan it in a little bit. If we bring our car back over, our wagon back over, you can see that blends in a little bit better now. It's not white anymore for sure. It's a little bit grimy. Now I've only used the one colour of dirt on this. I'm not going to go back over it with different colours. I'm certainly not going to give it any rust effects or anything like that. But you have a look at your wagon, or whatever it is that you're trying to replicate this on at the time. If it's a metal roof wagon, maybe they did rust on top. Get some reference photos, have a look at them. How did it weather? Were there certain patterns? Did it weather in more areas? Was it prone to weathering in areas more than others? Where water might accumulate particularly. So we're nearly done on this one. Okay, for what we're trying to do, I'm reasonably happy with that. Makes a mess of the stuff. I should have done this on a paper towel. But we'll fix them up later. Okay, so if you're happy with the result you've got there now, what we're going to do now is come across with our clean brush that's loaded up with a bit of alcohol on it. Okay, now we're not going to touch the surface. It's important that we don't touch the surface, because we're not trying to paint this on. We're just trying to drip it on. Okay. Sometimes you can tap your brush. That might allow it to come on too. And as this dries, This will help to fix our pigments, and we can use that capillary action to spread the alcohol around without removing a lot of our pastels, our chalks that are on there. Okay, because if we were to hit this with an airbrush or a matte varnish that's out of a spray gun, which is another way of fixing it, that's fine, you can do that, but in a lot of cases it may actually remove your powder or blow it straight off the model. So in this case, I am just having to touch the surface gently, but I'm not moving the brush around, because if I do, that chalk's going to disappear. Okay, let's come down that centre line, and let gravity do the job for you. Okay, so there's a lot of alcohol on there, but that's okay, it won't take long. Now in that particular little area there, I am touching the surface. In this case I've got a fingerprint, so I'm just using the brush just to move that alcohol around ever so slightly, and just get rid of that print. Okay, if your withering's uneven, if it hasn't gone evenly all over the top of the card, don't worry about it. Things generally don't wither that evenly anyway. If you wanted to now, you could come back with your other brush and put a few more drops on there if you felt it was necessary. You can wait for this to dry and come back and give it another hit as well. I'm happy with that. I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't want it to be too weathered. I don't want it to be junkyard. So we'll put that aside and we'll let that alcohol dry. Now that alcohol won't take long to dry at all. It will go off pretty quickly on its own, and at the end of it, that should have locked all of those pastels into place. Again, just watch your fingerprints. The alcohol method is only one way. Like I said, you can use a clear spray, something like a flat clear, a dull coat, a Tamiya clear, something like that. If you're going to do that, I'd suggest doing it through the airbrush, very low PSI, and from a distance, just mist the spray on. Don't blast it anywhere near close to that model, or your powder will be off into the oblivion. You just won't see it again, and you'll lose all your effect. I would try not to use a spray can if I was to try and fix the pigments, for the same reason. But yeah, that's the pigments. So if you're happy with them, lock them in. And again, just really watch your fingerprints. Okay.